Abigail Griffitts. She's a student at BYU and will begin her high school English teaching internship this fall. Abby is aromantic and asexual. And by the way, did you notice we're hearing from an L, a B, a G, and a T today? We want to be sure that pops into your mind, that we want to be able to hear from each group. Abby is aromantic and asexual and a budding advocate for the LGBTQIA+ community, particularly those who are especially overlooked and ignored. Her developing research focuses on historical patterns of inclusion and representation, especially in popular media. She is an original Gather conference attendee and very excited to get the chance to be on the presentation side today and to share her insights and what she has learned.
All right. Hello. I'm Abby Griffitts. I'm very excited to be able to share my story with you today. Do I have slides? Yes, thank you. I am asexual and aromantic. I'm willing to bet that a lot of you probably haven't heard those words, or maybe just one of them. Or maybe you think one sounds familiar. To put it very, very simply, asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction, and aromanticism is the lack of romantic attraction. They are separate identities, and I happen to be both. I am asexual, often shortened to Ace, and aromantic, often shortened to Aro. So I use the label Aroace, and I don't experience any sexual or romantic attraction to anyone. There's a lot to explain when it comes to these identities. I could give a couple hours worth of info, but I don't have the time. I'm simply going to preface this by saying that this is my personal experience as someone who is both asexual and aromantic, and other people who identify with one or both of these labels will absolutely have their own unique perspective. I'm also someone who is active in the Church of Jesus Christ, and that gives my story another layer of difference. I figured out that I was ace around the age of 14, 15. Pretty much the moment that I found the term, I knew that it described me. Finding it meant that my experiences of feeling different and weird when it came to romance and sex were put into a completely new perspective, and that I was not the only person in the world that felt that way. As I dived deeper into the research and conversation surrounding asexuality, I realized that sexual and romantic attraction were two different things. You could have both, or one without the other, or neither. So, yay. I could still feel romantic attraction, so I didn't need to worry about being visibly different or wrong. I could just hide it. I was fine. My life wasn't over. I could still be a good member of the church. I could still get married to a man. I could still get married in the temple. I could still do most everything expected of me as a daughter of God. I was fine. Spoiler alert, I was not fine. I was repressing. I didn't want to accept that I might be aromantic, because if I was aromantic, I wouldn't be able to do some of the things that I knew that I was supposed to do. If I didn't want to get married, I couldn't take a step further on the covenant path. If I didn't want to get married in the temple, I wouldn't be able to reach the highest degree of glory. And with this language of want came the idea that what I was doing was a choice. I could choose to marry someone if I wanted to, because mixed orientation marriages existed. I could find someone that was like me and make it work for eternity. I could choose to suppress my identity and put myself in situations that would not make me happy, because we're here on earth to be tested, right? This is just another test. But with that justification came the all-encompassing shame. Because if I could choose to do the right thing, then if I didn't, I was actively choosing to do the wrong thing. I was choosing to ignore commandments. I was choosing to be unrighteous. I was choosing to be a bad member of the church. And I lived with that for a while, and it took me a really long time to accept who I was, what my orientation was. I was aromantic and asexual, and I did not want to date or get married or have children. I believed in God. I do believe in God. And I do believe that my identity is God-given. It's not an earth-only thing. I was made this way, and I will stay this way. I also believe that our heavenly parents would not create any soul that inherently did not fit into the plan of salvation. So personally, I stand firm in the idea that my heavenly parents love me, and also that I am not broken. So for a couple years, I have been secure in that knowledge. I'm not broken, I don't need to be fixed. But with that perspective came the ability to recognize every single aspect of the world around me that told me that I did need to be fixed, that told other people that they could fix me. and there are a lot. Phrases that assume romantic relationships are inherently more important and valuable than platonic relationships. Are you dating someone, or are you just friends? Or, I want something more than friends. Questions that assume that everybody wants to participate in romance or sex. When did you start dating? When are you going to get married? Who's your celebrity crush? Invalidating responses when you start to explain. Oh, that's not healthy. Oh, that's so sad. I could never imagine not loving anybody. Well, you meet the right person someday. You're probably just a late bloomer. Have you checked with your doctor? Is it a side effect of your antidepressants? Yes, that is a real argument that people use. No, asexuality is not the same thing as post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. All of these with the ever-present subliminal message of, are you sure? It's everywhere, and it's exhausting. And most of the time, I don't even feel like I can be mad when I hear these things, because they don't come from people who want to hurt me. Family, friends, teachers, doctors, they don't tell me these things because they want to be mean. It's not malice, it's just ignorance. I can't count how many people told me, with the best of intentions and all of the love in their heart, that I would find someone someday. That I just hadn't met the right person. So I continue to explain. Asexuality is not a fad or a phase. Being aromantic doesn't mean that I'm cold or emotionless. The stereotypes that surround people like me are based in ignorance and misinterpretation, not fact. What it came down to most of the time was trust. I was asking the people around me to trust that I knew myself, that I wasn't lying to them, that I wasn't secretly gay or repressed, to not ask me over and over if I was absolutely sure of myself. There are many negative stereotypes that surround people like me. Things like the idea that aros and aces are confused or immature, dishonest, underdeveloped, repressed, attention-seeking, selfish, or that they have commitment issues. Asexuality and aromanticism are devalued by people who see romantic or sexual love as the thing that makes us human. And we are called aliens, emotionless robots, or heartless monsters, and further alienated from people who are considered actually human. The language we use, and the language you use, matters a lot. When I was doing research for an essay on aromanticism and asexuality, I compiled a list of phrases that were incredibly ignorant, rude, and potentially damaging. Things like aces and aros being clueless, politically regressive narcissists, individuals allergic to romance, victims of asexuality, wannabe activists in search of social ills, and committed celibates on an endless quest for victimhood. Because people don't see my identity as real, much less valid. And this doesn't only come from straight people. No one is immune to ignorance, and there is always more to learn. One of the articles I came across in my research was written by a queer person concerned with who has the right to use the pride flag. And it ended like this. In allowing the A groups and the emerging others to march under the pride banner, LGBTIQ activist groups and allies, note the conscious exclusion of the letter A, disrespect the sacrifices of their forebears, and undermine the struggle for gay and transgender rights. Frankly, they ought to be ashamed of themselves. You can probably imagine how I felt reading that. It hurt a lot. And so because of that, because of the things that people say to me and people like me, I'm here on this stage to combat it, to share my story and to ask you to trust me to know who I am, to know what I need, and to trust that I know my own experience, to listen to me and others like me. Curiosity is the opposite of fear, and communication is the best way to combat ignorance. Queerness is not about oppression, and liberation is not a finite resource. I promise that we can share. Banding together to form a community built on the search for trust and recognition does not undermine the struggle, it makes us stronger. Thank you for being here, for listening to me, and I hope you take the time to do a little bit more research and see what else you can learn. The Ace Aro Advocacy Project is a wonderful place to start if you want to learn more, and I sincerely hope you do. So thank you very much for being here.